I think we should go live. It's already time.
Yeah, we're going live. We're live. So, hi
Okay,
guys,
thank you.
welcome everyone. I believe everyone can see me. Okay, we are live now. So, welcome guys. Go ahead to drop a message on the Discord server to have those who haven't joined to join. It's 12 p.m. dot on the dot. So right now, if you can watch either using Twitch or YouTube. If you have not followed us or subscribed to our channel on Twitch or YouTube, please go ahead to subscribe to both channels because it makes it easy for you to get a notification when class goes live. So go ahead to subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, and we are live. So right now we already have your instructor on the call. Samuel's already on the call. He'll be taking you on today's class. So I think let's get more people on the call. We'll give about 1 more minute to have more people join the call live. Then Samuel can take over from there. So hello guys, I believe. Okay, sorry about that. That was a mistake. So I believe everyone is on this call right now. If you're yet to subscribe, go ahead to subscribe on the following channel. So Samuel, the floor is all yours.
Okay, hi everyone, good afternoon. And today we're going to be talking about Figma. I'm sure previous classes have covered the theoretical parts of design, especially the UI part. But today we're going to go into a little bit of practical. We'll be showing you Figma and how to use Figma. We'll also be practicing with creating a design. And yeah, we'll just get right to it. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen though? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Samuel. We can see your screen.
All right then. So today we are just going to be these are things we're going to try to cover today. So we just have an introduction to Figma, then we're going to try to understand what an interface means, and we'll go into Figma itself and see how to create a Figma file, design file, then try to understand how the interface works. Then we can go into some moving shapes and vector tools around, just try to move things and see how what we can create. We're also going to through text, images, and artboard, and create an interface and also show you how to collaborate with engineers and other stakeholders on your team. So first, this is what Figma looks like. Yeah. So Figma is a web-based tool. It's a web-based tool that allows you to create designs. Though we've seen other use cases for where people use Figma to create illustrations and other design artifacts, but primarily it is used to create interface. And what is an interface? An interface is this. So you visit the website, the text, the images, everything that you see put together on that website is an interface. So it's a medium through which you interact with the solution itself, this code itself. You don't have to type in any code to use the technology. All you need to do is to press that button or put in that text, and you get what you want. So it's that. Before now, during the early 2000s, it was called GUI. So basically, the um, when you open File Explorer, all those things you see, they are basically part. They're also interfaces. All the digital experience you have, those text, images, buttons, they are all interface. They are the things you interact with when using your device or using a website or mobile app. So basically, that is what an interface is. And that's what Figma allows you to do. It allows you to design the interface, and allows you to collaborate with engineers to bring that design to life on the web. So you can design a mobile app, you can design a website, you can also design for VR, you can design any form of digital experience for your users, for whatever solution you're trying to build. So Figma comes with a whole lot of tools that allows you to achieve that. So we have a whole lot from brainstorming to design to plugins that also allow you to easily turn what you've designed into something functional. And we also have a lot when it comes to design system, trying to create a design system, collaborating with other designers, collaborating with engineers. So we have a whole lot going for it. And because it is web based, it makes it very easy for everyone to interact with. So you don't necessarily have to install an application on your system for it to use it. Then you start thinking about compatibility, or if your system have enough RAM or computing power to process it. But the Figma also has a desktop application. So if you are there are perks to it. So if you're using the desktop application, for example, you get to if you install, we are going to go into that in a bit. So when it comes to installing fonts, typefaces, it's easier when you're using the desktop compared to when you're using the browser. But you get everything on the browser. You can just open a new tab, open multiple tabs. As you can see here, we have multiple. Okay, I don't think you can see this, but okay, you should be able to see this. So you have multiple tabs. You can open your Figma file. But if, for example, you're using a laptop that has low RAM. So you're using a laptop that has like 4 gig RAM or even 8 gig RAM. 8 gig will be fair, but somewhere around 4 gig RAM, it's not wise to open multiple Figma files. So something like this, it's advisable to open one or two Figma file per time, because Figma consumes a lot of RAM. And of course, Chrome consumes a lot of RAM, so it can be very heavy for the laptop and can slow down your system and make the your design very, very difficult. So just limit the number of tabs you open if you know your system is not powerful enough to handle. If you know you don't have a high, at least maybe 8 or higher than that in terms of RAM size. So yeah, that's all. So this when you can go to the Figma website and you go to the product, then you can go to downloads if you're trying to download the desktop. So you can download the desktop application here, or if you can download for Mac OS. Then you can also download for your mobile app. So the mobile application for Figma is basically not as if you can design on your mobile phone, right? But you can see your design in your mobile phone. So when you click on a particular frame, I don't know how feasible it is, but I might try to show you how exactly it works. So when you select a frame on Figma, if you have the mobile app installed, you would see that particular frame that you've selected on your mobile phone in the app. Then, of course, you also have the installer. This installer is basically when you install this application, it allows all the local fonts you have on your system to appear on Figma. So it makes it easy for you to use fonts that are not available by default on Figma. So those are the download options we have here. Figma also have some pricing, but to a large extent, it's free. Unless you're trying to set up something for a company you're working for, then you might have to consider setting an organization up and all that. But for to a large extent, you have what you need in the free plan. So yeah, so when you create an account, it's advised don't bother putting your email then password to create the account. so that you have less issues logging in or sign like coming back into the application, maybe on another device subsequently. So yes, so when you open your account, this is what you would see. You would see all this example of templates for the fig jam. Then you would also find like a bunch of files. Though I have deleted some of them. So for example, Figma basic, prototyping in Figma, and wireframe in Figma. These three files and I think two others came with always come with a new account, right? So it basically shows you the basics of Figma, how to use Figma, how to prototype on Figma, then wireframe. We're going to go through all these things in this particular session. So just stay with me. If you have any question, do let me know. I would make sure that it is addressed as well. So yes, so when you open the application, so there are two kinds of files you can open on Figma. You have the Figma file, which is this one. It is what it looks like. It's basically what it looks like. It looks like this. Then we also have we're going to talk about this shortly. Then we also have this FigJam. So FigJam basically looks like this. So it's a tool that allows you to collaborate. So collaboration here means things like um, brainstorming on research, brainstorming on ideas as a team, or even if you're working on a project on your own, you want to talk about a particular thing, or you want to explain or draw out your wireframe, or not your wireframe, particularly things like in UX aspect in terms of user flow, information architecture, user journey, all those artifacts. This is where you can create them natively. You can also do something, you can do them on the other file, but you have more options, more flexibility, and that is exactly what this particular type file is meant for. So you could easily keep a note, you can collaborate, your colleagues in the team can comment on whatever you've written down. You guys can have a sprint, talk about a lot of things, and here you use it to document the UX process that informs the UI design. So yes, that's for the fig jam. Then let's just go back. Just go back. So now for the Figma file itself. So if you don't have the paid version, you are limited to only you're limited to only 3 pages. So, but before we talk about the pages, right? Let's just talk about a little bit about the interface. The interface has multiple aspects to it. So here you find your recent files. Here, this particular there, all the pages you can see here are recent files. You can also see drafts. So drafts are basically not pages that you are using, but they are also there. Then you could also access the community part of the Figma. Basically, from there you can download designs of others and also plugins as well. So this is what it looks like. Because I'm opening this for the first time, this is what yours would also look like as well. So you just cancel this and you can scroll down and see what others have created. You can search for anything you're looking for here in terms of inspiration. You're trying to find a particular type of assets. You can find everything here. You can find complete designs here as well. So just keep that in mind. So you can also go back this way, back to the main application. So of course you can explore communities directly from this place as well. Then, so now another important thing is the team section. So for teams, you can create a team. So let's say you are working with a team for a project, either it's a company or a hackathon or whatever it is, and you guys are going to be building a solution, right? And you want to, it's not just one page, you're not just going to need one Figma file. You're going to be creating like multiple Figma files for the design system, for different aspects of the project. So because of that, you would need to create a team account. So for to create a team account, there's 3 steps. You give the team account a name, you add your members, then you set up. Now, if you are creating the account for educational purpose, you can switch to the educational plan. It allows you to have the full access of the paid plan without paying anything for it. So you can also keep that in mind. So this is what the team account looks like. So you have your project. You can create a new project and it will appear just below here. So something like this. So because this is not a paid account, this is not an educational plan, it doesn't allow you to create another project. You just have one project. So that's exactly what it will look like for you as well. And if you're opening for the first time, you only have 3 pages by default. So you have to use it wisely. So you can create a FigJam file, a normal Figma file, and you can also add teammates. You can add your teammates in the main team section. So you can go to members, you can invite people into the team. So you can send them a link. If you want them to have access to edit, if you don't want them to have access to edit, you can switch to view. Same thing, you would have a similar experience if you use Google Docs or any of those other collaboration platforms as well. So you can switch functions and paste email addresses here as well. And yes, so basically that's what the team account looks like. We're going to talk about like best person. You can see the list of all the members on your team here, then also settings for the team as well. So you can set an icon here, you can change the name, you can do a whole lot of stuff here as well. You know, Figma actually accounts for working in a team setting, and also if you're working alone, you can also use the team to keep your work organized and straight to the point. So yes, let's get right to it. So I'm going to just open this particular file and let's see the Figma interface itself. So this, okay, we're going to come back to this, but before we do, let's talk about, let's just start from this particular file. So here we have two panels. So we have the left panel and the right panel. The left panel basically contains the pages. So pages are like environments where you can design. So you can design in this environment, you can design in this environment, you can design in this environment. You can create more than 3 because it's a free plan. But if you pay for it or you're using the educational plan, you can get more pages as well. So you can create anything here. You can draw a shape, and when you draw whatever activity happens here you will not be seen in other pages. So you notice that you can't find what you've created here in another page. So this is standalone, but it's also within that same Figma file, right? So it's still the same Figma file, but different pages. Then, of course, the next part of in the left panel is the assets on the side. So basically, when you add a new, when you create something on any file, any page, that particular item, Figma would show you that particular item here. So if you are selecting it, it will have this particular color selected. Then if you're not, it will not have anything selected. So basically, it allows you to know, you should name your files, right? So we'll talk about that briefly, but it basically shows all the assets you have in that particular file, all the images, the shapes, the everything, text you have in that file, the frames, and also the auto layout and many others. So for example, this image, if I click on it, you can see where the image is located. You have to make sure your naming is correct. So if for example, this is a Twitter, this is a Twitter, is an image of or Twitter testimonial. So you can probably name it something along the line of Twitter, right? So you can name your files. It's very important for exporting as well as making it easier for other designers and engineers to interact with. When they see the name you give to a file, it adds more meaning to that particular item that has been selected and makes them to know exactly what you mean or what you're trying to achieve or what exactly the function of that selected item is. Then yes, so let's for the right side. So when you select a particular item, it shows you what you can do with that particular asset you've selected. So for example, this is an image, right? So you can see here we have an image. You can click on it to change the you can perform some actions on this image. So you can crop, you can fit it. So basically, if this was okay, this would work better with something like this. So this is shape, right? We're going to switch to images. Going to switch to image. So basically, it means that I can embed an image in this shape. I'm going to select an image from my system now. I'm going to pick something, then paste here. So you see that the image fills up the entire the shape. The shape was shrunk to this and it's going to just cover it. But you can allow it to fit. So if it's fitting, it's not going to limit itself to the shape that I'm trying to put the image into. It's basically going to take notice of the particular dimension of the image itself and make sure that the entire image is showing. Then you can also crop. Cropping allows you to, maybe you want to only bring out one particular point in the image, so you can quickly do this and select that particular point in the image as well. Then you can use strokes. So strokes just create some sort of border around the selected items. So you can change the color here with the color picker. Then we also have effects and export. So for effects allows you to add a background layer. So background layer is like, I'm going to change this to white so that it can be visible. So for example, make this 100%. You'll find, okay, so I'm going to also make, let's give this a 10, then give this a 10. It adds like a form of background, a shadow. Basically, whatever you understand a shadow to mean, is that to me that's exactly what it does. So it gives a shadow to that particular text. You can find this very useful, but make sure that you don't make it too thick, too obvious. It's always meant to be subtle and almost like it's not there, but it is still visible. Then we also have blur. So this will blur the particular selected item. Then we also have background blur. Background blur is visible when you place the item on another item. So let me show you an example. So we have this particular rectangle, right? So we're going to make it dark-ish. Then we're going to go to background layer. Then we select a background layer here. We are going to reduce the opacity of this. Opacity basically means transparency. So reduce the transparency of this, right? Then we can increase this to, like, let's say, so you can see that it adds this sort of glassy feel to it. So you can reduce that to, let's keep it at 100. So you can even bring it down to, let's say, 8. The item is visible, but you can see that there is that blur feel to it. So you can find this very useful as well when creating your designs. And yes, so before now, I believe you guys have also been taught design principles. This is where you put your design principles to practice, and we're going to be creating a design right on this call to show you exactly how to apply some of those principles as well. So yes, that is, so basically, for example, one more thing. So we've talked about select, like, the functions you have with images. Then how about text? So this is a text. Let's say, welcome to right, so this is a text. There are functions, there are things you can do to that text to change the way it appears. So you can change the font, change it to another font. So this particular font does not have typeface, does not have font. So you can change the typeface. You can also change the font, right? Make it bold, make it narrow. You can as well change the size and perform a lot of operations on it. Then you can also add a stroke. Remember the stroke we added to this part? Where is that image? Okay, I think that's okay. Here it is. Remember this red stroke we added here? We can also add it to text. So it looks something like this. Let me make this red so it to be visible. So you can see it wraps around the text. Then of course the other effects also are also there, available to use depending on what you're trying to achieve. So next thing is export. So now let's say you want to export an image, right? So you select on that image, not just an image, you want to export anything. You can export frames. We'll talk about frames now, just after this. So and don't forget, if you make a mistake or something moved or you deleted something, or basically you want to undo an action, just press Ctrl Z on your keyboard and that particular action will be undone. So you can press export here and it shows you a bunch of options. Do take note that this is the default, right? So this 960 by 1280 this is what the image dimension is. This is what the size is. When you do 1.5x, you're saying that this particular dimension should be multiplied by 1.5. And when you say 2x, you're saying that this particular dimension should be doubled. Then if you say 4x, it's saying it should be quadrupled. So we are trying to say that it should increase the quality by 4 times. Now Figma does not necessarily increase the quality, but it makes the file bigger, right? The file becomes bigger, and to like improves the quality, but not that much for it to add any difference. But if, for example, where this becomes useful is not even in images, but in a design. Let's say you've created a design, right? You've created everything and you want to export it. If you want to make it easy for people to zoom in and still see the details, you want to increase it from the default, which is 1x, to maybe like 2x, or even higher at 4x. Don't use any of these two values. They would only make the image worse. Then also make sure that it is on PNG. PNG ensures that the quality of the image is high as compared to JPG. JPG and PNG are both file formats for image file formats. Then one more thing. So concerning file formats, right? Let me show you something. So I'm going to draw a shape. I'm going to draw a shape, right? Let's draw a shape. This is a shape, right? So it's editable. We can change the color. We can change the color to whatever I want. I want to export this. We want to export this, select, then go to export. If we want this image for someone else to be able to open this image, right, in another browser, no matter what tool it is, and edit it, we can export it as SVG. So when we export a file, an asset as SVG, right, a vector as SVG, basically what it allows you to do is to edit it next time whenever you need it as well. So that's just a simple way of explaining how the function of SVG. So now, I don't know if you can see the bottom part of my screen. So we have rectangle 2 has been downloaded as SVG. So I can drag it back, right? You can see I can still edit it. I can change the color again. I can change it to whatever I want. So take note of that if you want to. You find this very useful. So, for example, if you're working with logo, you want to make sure that you have the look. So another thing is that SVGs are smaller in size. So if you are exporting assets for your engineers and you're exporting assets that are not images by default, it's good to export them as SVG, especially if it's not going to compromise what you're trying to achieve in terms of the interface um, concept or style you're going for. You want to export it as an SVG. When you export it as an SVG, the file is smaller, and it also makes it easier for the developers to manipulate and use as this deem fit based on your design. So that's basically it. Then one more thing, you can also change your background. So if you're not a fan of black, of a background like this, you can change the entire background to any color you want. You can make it white, but usually keep it as off white. Don't make it 100% white. Also, don't make it 100% black. It makes it difficult for it to use dark shades subsequently in your design. So, for example, if you make it all black, and somewhere in your interface you want to introduce something darker than you want to create some sort of variety in dark shades, it will be way more difficult. So just keep it just dark enough. Then if you're using the light mode, just keep it not absolute white, so just somewhere let it have some shade to it. So that works well. So we can also prototype, right? So let's select this. Just select this. Then when you want to prototype, there are kinds of assets you can prototype. But before we go into prototyping, let's talk about these items we have here. We have two types of we have this. So this basically takes you out of the file. You can click on this to leave the file completely. We have all these functions here. We can't go through all of them, but you can explore them yourself. So this the default selector. So it allows you to select any item and move it around. The next one is scale. Scale is a lifesaver. Trust me, it really does help. I'm going to demonstrate how with this particular design. This is an actual design, so everything is there. can select on small details and all. So an example of items that you might want to export as, though it might not be necessary. So it's, for example, in this particular scenario, sell noun is going to be a variable that will change. But let's assume it is not. It's just something that is fixed. It's just going to be always there. Something like this, you can export it as SVG, right? You can export it as SVG, and the file size will be smaller and it's easy to work with. Then, of course, your icons will be in SVG, um, not in PNG or JPG. Do take note of the file formats anyways. You can learn more about it online. So let's say you want to scale this. So select the frame. Now, instead of you coming here to find the scale option here, you can click K on your keyboard and you can see that you can return it back with V. Just take note of this. When I click K, it changes. And when I click V, it returns back to default. So this is the default. K is the scale. So now it's on scale. You can select a frame. This is a frame anyways. So we'll talk about that shortly. So when you click, you can see that the cursor is different. This is the default um, cursor when you want to drag an item in a horizontal form path. But if you click K, it doubles. So it's more like you want to do more than just drag it. So when you drag, it expands the interface both horizontally and vertically. Now, not just the frame itself, but the content of it. Now, while this is looking, for example, this works, but if you notice now in this particular design, some are looking small and some are looking big. That's because there's a component here. So this is the component, this is the parent component, and these are the children. So the children are off point, but the master component is intact. So you can just return this to reset and everything returns back to normal. So you realize that we just switched. I'm going to copy this, then press Ctrl Z, and see what it was before. Let's see. So this was what it was before, then this is what we expanded it to. Okay, Figma did not account for the increase in this, so we can just easily make adjustments to that. So we can increase the size of a frame. You can find this very useful in terms of let's say you want to change the resolution you're working with. You're working with, for example, 1440 by whatever value as the height, and you want to change it to a different frame. If you just come here and change it here, like for example, just come and select Mac Pro 14, only the contents, only the outer frame. Now, so I mean, this is the only thing that will change. If you come to this place and just select like any value here, it's just this frame that will change. I'm going to show. I'm going in case you didn't notice it the first time. I'm going to do that again. So you select this frame, and you come here and let's go for something big. So you notice that we now have space here, right? So it's not going to expand the content, but if you use scale, it's not just going to expand the inner the outer the main shell. It's going to also expand the content in that particular frame. So now I mentioned frame a couple of times. Let's just talk about. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So I mentioned frame a couple of times. Let's just talk about frame. So we have frames. So frames. This is what we call a frame. This particular X crossing we have here is a frame. We also have sections. We have slices, but primarily designers will use frame. So frame is like where you create your design. It's like the artboard. It's like the artboard in Photoshop, but for Figma. So this is where you create your interface. So for example, you want to create for a desktop, right? You can click F on your keyboard, right? You can see the F option here, or you just click here and drag across. So you can just click F on your keyboard and drag across. But we don't usually design that way. So what we do is that we select the particular screen size we are trying to design for. Let's say MacBook Pro 14. Then we select it and we have this. So when we create the design over time, if it's a landing page, for example, of course, the landing page will have a lot of content, horizontal content. um, sorry, vertical content, then we can then drag this down to accommodate these other sections that the design would have. Then you can see by default this has a name of frame 1862. Make sure you name your frame. Let's call this landing page. Landing page and slash that. When you create the mobile view, you can change it to landing page. So let's just do that. Let's just do that quickly. So phone, let's select 13 Pro Max. Then we can change this to mobile. So when you've done with the design, you can have this side by side so that the engineers can see what the desktop and the mobile is at the same time and know how to work to create the code. So you just stretch it horizontally and okay. So yeah, that's sorry about that. So yes, that's how you handle that. Then beside frame, right, we have something called auto layout. So auto layout looks like this. Let's say we have a text called welcome. So a little bit of welcome. Then we also have a shape. Let's say we have this shape. Then let's say we have okay, let's just leave like this. Let's say we have the text and the shapes. When you click Shift and A, right, on your keyboard, alternatively, you could select right click and find auto layout. Add auto layout. You can see Shift A. It creates a wrap around the text and the image. Now, the beauty about this particular type of wrap is that it is responsive, it is flexible, it changes based on whatever action you take on it. So, for example, you can click on this and you can see that it's now stacking on each other, or you can click on this. So the arrow pointing this way makes it to stay side by side, or you can use this to make it vertical. Then another thing you can do is you can make sure that whenever, no matter the space, right? So for example, when you stretch it out now, you can see that there's space on this side, but you can change that by adjusting it from packed to space between. Then no matter how much you stretch this, right? No matter how much you stretch this, there would always be this space in between the two elements, right? Then you can undo it by pressing Control Shift G, and that takes out the auto layout completely from it, right? Takes out the auto layout completely from it. So this comes very useful when you're trying to create components and you want your component to still look good no matter where it is placed, and you want to test how functional it is in different scenarios. So you can use auto layout to do that. So auto layout can also have a background. You can see it has all the other functions. You can add a fill, give it a color. You can also add a stroke, give it whatever color you choose, right? You can give whatever color you choose. Then you can also add an effect to it as well, right? So you can do all that. Then when you turn a set of elements into frames, it introduces more functions as well. So for example, with this, you can change it from what it is. Basically fixes that it doesn't change no matter what is going on around it. But changing it to fill means that it would behave and function based on what is wrapping it. And currently what is wrapping it is a frame. So for you to know what if an item is a frame, you can see this icon here, this triple line. That's how you know that whatever you're selecting is a frame. Then if you see something that looks like this, you know that it is a sorry, this is an auto layout. Then if it's something like this, it's a frame. This is what a frame looks like, the icon, and this is auto layout. Then there's one more type. It's called a group. So I'm going to I'm going to make a duplicate of this, right? Just make a duplicate of this and keep it here. Now if you press Ctrl G on your keyboard, right, it creates a group. So this is a group. A group does not have the functionality of being able to drag, and it still looks the same, but it allows you to contain elements that are close together in the same place and also makes it easy for you to export similar elements that will not change form or shape in when the developers are building. So you can make sure that no matter what type you're using, depending on the scenario, you always name your element. So you name it based on the function it is performing. So let's say this is a mobile view header. Let's say this logo. Let's assume this is logo. Then this is like the icon. We're going to design something soon. We can name this header. Header is the topmost topmost component. Okay, we'll talk about what component means, but it's the topmost design in an interface. So usually the topmost design, not all the time, but the topmost design is always the header. Then of course we have something called the footer. So let me show you an example. This here, top universe, and all this text here, all the way to the bottom, is called a header. Then at the bottom, all these items here, they are called footers. It's called a footer, not footers. This is called a footer. The entire thing here is called a footer. Then this is called the hero section. So from this, in fact, the whole of this whole area is called a, a hero section. Then let's show you. Let's check on our website, right? Let's see. Same thing. No matter the website, no matter what it looks like, this particular part is called the hero section. So if somebody says hero section, they are referring to that first part of the interface. So usually companies use that, businesses use that to capture. Let's check top for example. So let's check something more. Let's check Google. Let's check Google AI for example. Let's check Google AI. Right. Let's open Google AI quickly. So businesses use the hero section. This is a hero section. This is a hero section, right? You use it to capture the essence of the business. So whatever function that business is performing, you capture it in the hero section. No, let's check another example. One more example. One more example. Okay. I can't. There's this particular platform I was going to show you quickly. Then just to drive the point home. But basically, this just demonstrates what I'm trying to say when it comes to the dynamics of website. Then any other section after that is called a section. Any other part rather after that is called a section. So this is a section. This is a section. This is a section. This is a section. You can combine these two to be a section. This is a section as well. Then this is a section. As for how I know, you can, if you realize that each section communicates a different information from the previous section. You can see here it says start your tech career. This is a block of information. Then it's different from this one that is having a different heading that is saying what our students say. So each time you want to communicate a different point or a different aspect of that page, or if it's a landing page, that particular solution, you can, that particular new place you're creating is called a section. So yes, let's go back to Figma quickly. So we have auto layouts, we have frames, so we have groups, right? So we have auto layout and we have frames. So those are the three types of groupings we have on Figma. So now we've talked about that. Let's talk about other points. So we have other shapes here. We have rectangle all the way down. Then we also have the pen tool. Just quickly go through the pen tool. So pen tool allows you to draw stuff. So let's say if you're familiar with Illustrator, you know how this works. So you can create custom shape in Figma as well. And you're done connecting the dots, click on done. You can give it a fill. You can give it a stroke. You can change the color, whatever it is. Then you can just create your own shape by yourself in Figma as well. Then text, same thing. You can use it to write things. And this particular place is where you find plugins and components, publicly accessible components, or components in your library. Now, I would explain what library means, but basically, this is where you can search things at a global level in your file or in your team. where you can access the public, the community, the community account, the community section of Figma to lay hands on plugins that would help improve your productivity as you design. Then this hand basically allows you to drag things around, not necessarily zoom them in or out, but just drag information back and forth. You're dragging emphasis, you're dragging the screen, not the element. So when you drag like this, you're not dragging this shape, you're dragging the screen. So you're dragging the screen into another point. So you can see you drag this back into view. Then one more thing, you can use you if you select on each of them, you see the command you can use to activate them. So this is H. Then this is comment. So let's say you are working with a team of designers and one of the designers created something that you want to comment on it. Maybe you want something is not consistent or whatever the case may be. You can use the comment section to introduce a comment. What color? What color? Color you use? Right? What you use. So something like this, then you can click on enter or click on send. So now it would register in that particular point where you created the comment. So whenever the other person or other designers or whoever is have access to the file sees it, they can see what your comment is and where you're pointing to. So yes, you can create threads. So threads here would mean like the conversation can continue here. You guys can continue talking back and forth, and this comment will continue to remain here. But over time, this can become very messy. Messy in the sense that you will just have a lot of comments in the Figma file, and you don't want that. So whenever a particular issue has been resolved, you can click on this particular icon here to clear it off. Now it doesn't necessarily disappear, it just gets out of view. So you can always come here to see the comments that you've made. You see them in this particular section here. So all the comments that you've ever the comment that's happened in the particular file will be here. It would always be accessible here, but they will no longer be on the screen to obstruct your design. Yes, so we still have a few more things. We have to talk about prototype and inspect, but before we do that, we're just going to, okay, you know what, we're going to do that, then we'll create a design, then we'll prototype it. Maybe we'll add a little bit of animation to make it fun and interesting. So let's talk about prototype. So prototype basically, okay, let's take this one off. I'm going to just delete this, right? And I'm going to return this back to what it was before. I think that was no, that was 14, something like this. Yes, I think this was it. So if you want to prototype basically means that we want to see what this design would look like in on a website. This is definitely a desktop. We want to see what this design would look like on a website. So what we could do is to select, right? You can select this particular frame. You notice this is a frame. Let's look at it here. And I mentioned earlier that you use frames to create your designs. Then you select your frames, you go to prototype. You can see start flow. Start flow means that this point will be a starting point. Maybe you can have multiple starting points in your design. So let's say we have let's just duplicate this several times. Drive the point home. So, and then we can just connect them. Let's just connect them. Just click on this, drag it here, click on this, right? Click on this, drag it here. Then yes. Now, if this start flow means that when you click on this, the Figma is going to load this particular frame first. Figma is going to load this particular frame first. As against to then from this particular frame, you can navigate through the other points in the design. So that is what the starting flow means. Then interaction means like this is an interaction, for example. This is an interaction. You can see interaction. And you have a lot of functions here. I can't go through all of them, but you'll find a lot of tutorials on YouTube. And with time, we'll also create tutorials for you here on in top universe. So you can have a click action, and so this is an action. You can select any action you want to happen. Then when you select the action, you select, let's do that again. So you drag and drop points. So you said, okay, let me go back off a little bit so that you guys can understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to zoom in. So when you switch to prototype mode, let me remove it from prototype. This is what it looks like. When you switch to prototype, you notice we have more options here. Nothing changes here, but you can see we have more activities here. Now, for the design itself, anything you select in design now, it will come with this plus sign. This plus sign. So let's say we select this. This is post property. So we want to show what happens when a user clicks on post a property. So you can see there's a plus sign. What you do is you click on that plus sign, click and drag. You drag it across. Let's say this is where users will see what they need to see when they click on post a property. So they do that and it connects. So when you load the prototype, this becomes clickable, right? This becomes clickable. So by default, when you drag an interaction like that, by default is what it looks like. You can change it. You can change, okay, you don't want it to navigate to that other design. You want it to appear in the same design, but maybe as an overlay. An overlay is like a pop-up. Remember when you visit a website and you have that pop-up that just appears on the screen. It's still that same page, but there's another extra information that appears on the screen. So you can use open overlay to create that. Then of course you can close overlay, then you can swap overlay as well. Then you have all these other functions you can explore yourself. Then you can also make it the transition between this page and this page smooth. So with smart animate is going to take note of what is here and what is in the screen you're going into, and when they are matching layouts, matching layout, yes, it will animate it in a way that makes it seamless, look seamless. Then you can also change how the animation transition works, then the speed as well. And basically that is just an overview of the prototype section. Then so now let's click on it. Let's click on start flow. Let's see what happens when you click on start flow. So it loads, depending on your internet, it will load faster or take more time. Now, this is what appears. It appears in this laptop screen. Now, it appears here because if you notice here, we have device set as MacBook Air. We can change that to any device we want, but it's advisable to switch it to presentation so that this frame it does not become a distraction for your engineers. And if you notice, it doesn't quite fit well, and sometimes information might not get the exact frame to the exact device to showcase your design. So it's best to use presentation. So when you switch to presentation, you can see your design just appears as it is. Then you can switch to fit screen width, then it covers the entire screen. So it's up close, you can see the design closely, you can inspect it, and yeah, so remember we connected this to another page. So now you can see it is clickable. It changes from this particular pointer to this. So when you click, it moves. You are not seeing the difference because it's the same page. So I'm going to change, just going to change the color, right? I'm just going to change the color so you can see that it has changed. It has actually changed. So just change this to black. Now, this is not to create a design. This is just to demonstrate something. So this is it. Then you click on this, you can see that it has changed. So that's how that works. Then just return this. So yes, then you can have multiple. So because we have this as the starting point, we have this as a flow. If you come to this point now, you can see flow one. Now we can name this particular point. You can give it a name. Let's say you can give it the name of property list. Let's just say let's remove this one. Let's say that we want this flow to be called property list. And we can have other flows in design as well. So let's imagine that there are so many dashboards in design, and No, 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 no. Okay, I'll quickly drag this here. So, so this is a flow. So we can, let's say that we have another flow here, but that flow, this is starting point two. Let's name it property, just property. Okay. If not, we now have property and property list as well, so we can switch between them right from your prototype. You can this become very useful when you're trying to separate. For example, you designed a dashboard, you also designed a website, you also designed like maybe a mobile application, or maybe you want to show a particular flow in the design, and you want to show it also multiple flows to explain exactly how you want the engineers to work with it, or you're presenting to stakeholders. So you use this to separate the different parts of the design and interact with them differently to your presentation. Then yes, this might seem complex or hard to comprehend, but just know that it takes time. I mean, usually it's really fast to learn to pick up Figma, and in no time you'll be able to use it. So if you notice, like I'm able to zoom in and out. If you are using trackpad, just pinch your screen, like expand your hand, your two fingers on the screen to zoom in, or you can sorry, separate the two fingers on on your trackpad. Separate the two fingers to zoom in, then bring your two fingers together to zoom out, and that's how you zoom in and out. Then you can use your two fingers. So use your two fingers to navigate, to drag around, right? To drag around, just to move around the Figma file. Then the same two fingers. So that's it for trackpad. If you're using mouse, it's slightly different. And you can use your, I think the shift or the control key allows you to easily navigate with your mouse, but generally it's the same thing. Yes. We still have like a few more things I would like to touch before we go into a design. Time is fast spent. So we just talk about them quickly. So remember that earlier I mentioned components, and how parents components and children components, like for example this design. We're going to so this is how it works, right? So we're going to show you how to create, we're going to create a component from scratch, and we're going to make children out of it, and we're going to see how it works. So let's create something. Let's create something very small. Let's create a card. Let's create a card. I'm going to give this a radius of, let's say, 8, right? And we're going to select text. Let's say welcome. Let's say welcome. We would increase this to, let's say, that 2. No, let's keep it at 40 for now. Right? Let's keep it 40. All right, so we have welcome. Then we would introduce a body text. Let's introduce a body text. Let's say um, today you will learn. Today you will learn how to become. Let's read the font size now. Put that at 4. At 4. Okay. Bring it down to 16. Usually use multiples of even numbers. Make it very easy for me to work with. Now they become is superstar in Figma. In Figma. Right, so let us keep that here. Let's keep that here. Then we can have a button as well. Just write, introduce a button. Just draw a button here. Keep it at 160 and 40. Right? Then just give it a of 5. It's a button, and this write a text in the bottom. Let's say start here. Start here. And this select Okay, so now what I did was that I selected the text. You see the text start here, then the rectangle of this rectangle behind it. So when you select both of them, click Shift A, and it turns it into an auto layout. I choose auto layout because it's a button and I want the button to be flexible. So if I want the button to stretch in another instance, I want it to be easy to stretch. You can't do that with a group, neither can you do that with a frame easily. So now let's give this a color. Let's give this a color. Let's give this a color of purple. Then the text should be white for better contrast. Right. So notice we have more too much space, so we can I'll shrink this card a little bit. Shrink this card a little bit. Right. Just shrink a little bit. So we have this here. Then we can keep this here as well. Just just do something like this. You can have this here. It's something very simple. I mean, it's not nice, not the best, but it works. So let's do this here. Then so I'm going to select this through and check it out. Right, shift it out a little bit. Then do the same to this. So now what I want to show you is this. So just honestly, I'm not trying to make something absolutely nice, but I'm just trying to demonstrate how components work. So we have a component. I'm going to turn this button into a component. So you turn this bot action here. When you select anything, to a large extent, I think anything, yes, anything you select on Figma, you can turn it to a component. So you see create component. So we want to turn this button into a component, then let's turn this into a component. So let's take this off for now. Then we've turned this into a component. So when you turn it into a component, you see the purple frame outline around it, then you can see that sign. So this is the icon for components. This is the parent component. So parent components have a field icon. So how do I, okay. So if field icon is an icon that looks like this, so it is filled. This is filled, like this button is filled. Now the outline version of it would look something like this, something like this. This is the outline version. So notice the same thing here. This is the outline version of an icon, this kind of icon. So this is the child, this is the parent. All right. So now that we've done that, I'll just return this back to this. Okay. We're going to duplicate this. Just click on duplicate. All right. Just drag it into another point. Then let's just duplicate it one more time. One more time. We'll have to copy it. Now, you notice what happened. If I change the color of this, if I change it to red, you notice all the other instances have turned, that's changed to red. It's now red. Now, if I change this to purple, any color or wherever I change it into, it changes as well. Now, another example, you can also increase the size, reduce the size. So this is now 10. You can see everything is now 10. And you can also reduce this to like, let's say 12. Everything is now 12. Let's reduce the space here to 8. Space I've reduced across all to 8. If I drag this down, so if I see whatever I do in the parent, it also happens in the children as well. This is the parent because this is the source. This is the source of every other thing that happens in other screens. Then yes, that's what a component is. That's what has how components function in Figma. But components as a word in design, it means a smaller combination of assets. So, for example, in this particular card we have here, we have a shape embedded in it. We have a text, we have color. So this is a unique a smaller part of the website. Now let's go into our website. So this, for example, is a website, right? So we have different sections in it, and embedded in the sections we have the cards. So this is a card, right? So embedded in the card we have icon, we have text, um we have heading, then we have body text. This can be a component. This should be a component, and there's a condition for it. This should be a component if it is going to be used in, if you are going to need something in this particular layout in another point in the design. So for example, if we are going to need this card, kind of card in the landing page, we're also going to need it in the contact us page. We're also going to need it in the dashboard. We're going to need it somewhere, somehow. For example, this is very common with buttons. You need buttons across the website, right? So you create the button once, you create all different types of button once, and I'll show you an example in a design system. Then when you create it once, you don't have to go over and, for example, maybe you want to change it from the radius from 5 to 8. Then because you've changed it here, you now have to start looking for all the instance of button to change it to 8. Once you change it here once, you can change it across board in all the instance that have a button from the parent. So that's how it works. It becomes very useful to make changes and make corrections and manage very, very, very big Figma files. And so yes, that's a component. Component is small units, small points in a design, combination of elements in a design, but a smaller part. So we have components, then we have sections, then of course we now have the website. You can explore the concept of atomic design. You'll learn more about how these things build up. This will be very useful when creating design systems as well, understanding components and atomic design. So yes, that's the components, even colors as well. So if I change the color of this to, let's say, red, you can see it changes across board. It's just an awful color. And don't forget to name your components as well. Let's call this welcome card. And, yes, so that is it. That's what it looks like. And so now we'll touch on one more thing, then we can go into do some practical quickly. So let's say you've created your designs and you want to, let's use this like design for example. So you've created your design and you want to bring in your engineers to start building it. So you what you do need to do is to click on this share button and you add the engineer's email. So when you add their email, they would be sent an email with the link to join the Figma file, or you can send them the Figma link directly. You don't want them to have editing access because they don't need it. And you want to know who is making changes to your design. And if you introduce people who are not necessarily using that for editing or making changes to the design, it makes it difficult to know if something happens. Because if you're bringing an engineer that is not used to Figma, they can mistakenly delete something and it can cause a lot of issues for you. Though Figma recently, not so recently, created a feature that allows you to correct that, but you want to give them only view access. Then you separate it with comma, then add more emails, and that is it. Or if you want to share them the link, make sure that this is turned to depends. You could put this to only people that are invited. So basically, whoever is all the people on this list. So if you add more use emails, it will appear just below. Then it means that only those who have been added here can see the Figma file, or you can make it accessible this way. Change it to view for your engineers, and you click on this to copy. You can see say copied, and basically that is it. If you want to publish to the community, this particular file to the community, you can click on publish. Then there's a particular you can go through the process to set up a community account. Then once you're done, you can publish your design into the community, into Figma community, and make your design accessible to others on the community as well. So yes, that is it for collaboration. So one more collaboration feature is the voice. So usually it's not accessible if you don't have the paid or the educational plan, but basically you can interact with whoever is on the file via audio, and you guys can talk back and forth or interact. So for example, if there's another person on this file and I want to locate the person, we're on a call, maybe a Google Meet call, and I want to locate the person, you can easily click the person's profile, double click on it. You can see spot me. So if this was someone else, you can easily double click on their profile, and wherever they are in the Figma file, Figma will take you to where they are and you can see what they are saying. Well, that's very useful when you're collaborating with others, or whatever happens that you need that kind of feature. Yes, that is always available. Then yes, so I'm going to show you how to set up a library. So a library is basically a combination of styles. So a style is, for example, I'm going to drag this here. So this is a text. This text is white color. This text is in the name of the typeface is Inter. This text is regular. The font is regular. This font size is 14. Basically, all this information here. If you want to create a Figma style with it, all you need to do is to click on this, right? Click on the plus sign, then give it a name. Let's say paragraph. For the paragraph, then click on create style. So this is now a style. If you click on this, you can see that we have under text style, we have style here. Now, this also means that if I come to this particular point now and I select this particular text, I can go into Figma, then find paragraph, click on it, then that all the styles that are on this particular text, everything like you saw earlier, will be will be converted. This will be converted into all the styles there. So this becomes very useful when you're trying to create a design system, even if it's just a small project and you need style guide. So you have to create them. You create your styles for different for paragraph headings and all that. You create it, and they would all appear here. Beside text, you can also create colors. So, for example, you could click the same triple four dots, then click on plus. Then you can save this gradient, give it a name, and there's a lot more you can do with it in terms of grouping them and all that. But you can check that online and figure out how to create that. It's not difficult. Then we have text, we have colors, we have components, we have so basically everything you see here. So you can also create different types of drop down, different types of shadow and all these other effects. You can create custom styles that you can use in your design, right? So that is also available. So now let's say you've done all that, right? I'm going to open a file where that I have all that created. Let me quickly drag that file into view. Okay, so this is a design system. So let's say you have all the styles, all the styles into Figma. You've done that. You've created your components for buttons, for input field, like you've done everything. So this is a very long list. This is a design system, fully functional design system, right? So see, so for typography, this is what it could look like. So we have the big text, we have headings, different headings from H1 to H6. Then we also have paragraphs here. So large, medium, and all that. Then of course you can have the documentation to come with it. So all this information, all these styles, they are all inside Figma already. They've been saved. It's inside the file rather, not inside. Okay. So basically it is going to be accessible from this point if you follow the process I just described. We have groups here. You can see we have these subgroups, and basically you can group your primary colors, the different types of point your primary colors, your different shades as well, success buttons. So for example, you want to, as a point in design, you want it to be like, okay, this is success. So the particular action that the user have taken was successful. You can use green color. You can use different shades of. You can save different shades of green to be used whenever needed. So I mentioned effect styles that can also be saved to Figma styles. So you have them all here, as well as grid. Um, so you can also have other information. So your components, and so these are styles, right? So this is button. So for buttons, you can have your buttons. You can have your buttons, and you can have your buttons here. Then you. So how it appears is that when you create your buttons, okay, I think there's something I didn't mention in the previous example of components. So let's say you have this component, and let's turn this into a component. You can have a component inside a component. So we have three components, three parent components. So what I can do is to select the three and turn it into a variant. So a variant is, you could learn more about it. Time is time has gone. So you learn more about it. So it adds a little bit more functionality, well, especially when it comes to prototype, and also in arranging your work in Figma. So depending on what you're trying to achieve and what you're going for, you can use variants to create. So for example, will be the in bot with buttons. So you have created the different styles of buttons, both outline, danger, then like you've created everything. Then you have to group all of them so that they can be accessible at from one point. So let me give you an example. I'm going to drag that button you just saw into the space. You have this. So let's say you put this into the landing page, right? You can, because you've selected and you've set up all this, you can find tutorial videos on how to create them on YouTube. You can easily navigate between different sizes, different types, then also different states, as well as turning them into red or not. So depending on what their function, removing the icon from both left and right and all that. So all those things are possible. So but for now, right, all the styles, all the components, they are all accessible in this Figma file. But you want it to be accessible at the team level. So you matter the page that is created, but as long as it's in this team, you want everyone to be able to see those components and use them. So what you do is to click on assets, right? Then you click on library, this Bible book looking icon, then you publish. When you click on publish, it takes a while. Okay, it's not accessible, so you can publish the styles, but not the components themselves. So when you publish, it takes a bit of time to publish. But once it is published, even from another Figma file, you can access the styles. Okay, it's almost done because it's only styles. So all right, good. So I'm going to make this dark again. Okay. So this page is also within the same team. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle. Let's see if it's working. So you click on this. Then, okay, so for this to work here, one more thing. You need to go to library and turn it on. So this is called the design system. So you can turn it on. When you turn it on, it will be accessible from this Figma file. So all you need to do is you can draw the shape, select this, and you can see all the styles, all the colors are now in this particular Figma file, even if they were not created in this Figma file. So that can be very useful to ensure consistency in design across multiple pages as well. Um, before we will move over to something creating an actual design. So I want us to walk through this, creating this particular page. But before that, I want to take questions. So do we have any questions concerning what?
Yes, Samuel, we have a lot of questions here.
Okay.
So I'll be dropping them on the screen so that you can just pick them one after the other.
All right.
Okay, so here you go.
Okay, auto layout. Okay, auto layout. So then auto layouts. I'm move back to the screen. So auto layout. So auto layout is let, let's just have small practical with auto layout. So auto layout allows you to create responsive design to a large extent. That's what it does. But it also allows you to create. I'm going to drag in that button again. So I'm going to pick the button up from here to demonstrate auto layout. So let's say we have this button here, right? And we also have this. This is just a big rectangle. Then we're going to join both of them together. Select both of them, then Shift A will turn it into an auto layout. You can drag this. So auto layout comes with more functions here. I didn't talk about it earlier, but they are also available. You can drag this way, so you can expand it. If you notice it is in the middle. So in the middle because I said it should stay in the middle. You can put it in the center here. I could also put it on the side. So no matter where you want, you can put it there. This is called padding. Padding is the space between the actual item and the edges, right? So you could reduce and increase it both horizontally and vertically. That exists. Then you can also change the position. But because you only have one button, so for example, if I add a second button here, I select, wait, let's go back to here. So just take note of this. Two buttons, one frame. And I select this. You can see it stays by side, stays on top. So a good example would be something like this. So you have two buttons side by side. You can click on this and put it side by side. Take notes as one very important design principle. You don't use the same style of buttons side by side. It's not, you are going to end up confusing your users because they are identical buttons. So if one is filled, your second one should be outlined, particularly outlined. Is a good example will be on this, either outline or fields. This also works because when you see two buttons like this in this particular scenario, you definitely your eye comes to this one first. There's less emphasis here, more emphasis here. But if you could use this, or you could use an outline. Outline also works beautifully. So you get to have the main button and the secondary button, which is the one that with less emphasis. So that, yeah, that also you can change it to stack on each other. Let's say it's mobile view. So for example, you created your design. Let's say this is the, let's just bring this together. Let's say this is the hero section but mobile view, right? Then we now want to create the hero section but desktop view. So it's not going to be very long and all that. Then it's also going to be in the middle. This should be in the middle too. Just keep this in the middle. So, but this one, because this is desktop view, it's not going to be stacked on each other. It's going to be side by side. It's going to be side by side because we have more space. It can't be side by side because the space on the side is not enough for it to be side by side. But because it's desktop, there's more space, so you can do it. So you can use auto layout to quickly move items between points. I'm trying to demonstrate a use case for auto layout, so that works beautifully. Then another example is that you could click on this button, for example, and make it fill. So fill would make it cover the entire space because this is fixed. This is great. This is hog rather. Then this cover the entire space. So basically, it means that if I shrink this, it's going to adjust based on the space available. So yeah, there's a whole lot you can do with auto layout. We can't cover everything now. Just explore it. It makes your design easier, more flexible, and uh, also fast as well. But know when to use it, know when not to use it. You don't necessarily have to fill your entire design with auto layout. You still need to use frame at the base cover for your. It's still going to remain the artboard. So you still need to use frame as the artboard. So frame, this is a frame as the artboard, then you can have your components within it, right? So don't forget that. If you create auto layouts without um without a frame, you will shouldn't. I don't think you'll be able to. Yes, okay, you will be able to. There's a couple of limitations when it comes to prototyping with auto layout as against frames, but don't use auto layout for to create your artboard. It won't work, and there are times when you don't need things to flow in a symmetric order. You want to scatter information a bit more across board. It can't use auto layout, so you have to use a default frame that would allow you to, you can put an element here, you can put another one here. So frame allows you to do that, but you can't just drop things in an auto layout and expect them to stay scattered across the screen. They would behave in a certain way that is predictable and easy to manipulate, but they have their use cases, so you have to understand that as well. Yeah. Any other question though?
Yes, it's on your screen.
Okay, what? was used to design this interface of Figma? Is it the technology in terms of code? I think it was Node.js. I don't know if you're familiar with programming, but I don't know. It's something around JavaScript, I think, but something very low level. Is Whimsical the same? No, Whimsical is not the same as Figma. Whimsical and FigJam have similar features. So I introduced FigJam earlier on. So this is what FigJam looks like. I showed you FigJam earlier. So it's FigJam and Whimsical has very similar features. No, they are still not the same, but this is FigJam. So Whimsical also have similar functions, but they are not the same tool. In fact, they are not even in the same company. So take note of that. And okay, what is typography and its usefulness? Usefulness. So typography is a text. So when you talk about text, generally, you're referring to typography. So typography is trying to talk about how do we display the text in a way that is legible and beautiful and also functional as well. So this is a text, right? This is a text. And typography is trying to say, okay, how do we make this easy for you to read? How do we make this thing aesthetically pleasing, depending on the function? And how do we make this thing function in a way that achieves the general goal of the design? So for example, if you notice, we headings are always bold. Then the text underneath is always not bold. It's part of psychology because as designers, we need to understand the people we are designing for. So you can't make this and this bold because if you make both of them bold, you are not demonstrating hierarchy when it comes back to design principle. So typography is trying to see how we can create text. So text, this is a text that is functional and aesthetically pleasing as well as useful, and depending on the use case. Yeah. And next question, please explain. Okay, how do we use those typography and buttons added into our Figma file like yours? Okay, so I think I've demonstrated that earlier. First, let's say you use this particular page. In this example, this is the page where the design system is. So you have to publish it first. At this point, it has already been published. Now, if you are trying to publish and for the first time, you can go into settings to think you have more options to so you can enable libraries. Libraries can be turned on or turned off. Make sure it is turned on. Then if it is turned on, you publish your library here. You move from layers. This is the default. This is what you see by default. You move into assets, then click on this, then you select the design system available here. Then when you're done, you publish it. When you publish it, right, it becomes accessible in the team account. So this step, I'm step back a little bit. So this is a team account. So it's this. This is a team account. It has page one, page two, page three. Sorry, file one, file two, file three. So this is a sample file. I'm going to show you this a bit. Then these are other two files. This is a design system. So when I published it here, even from any of these files, it is now accessible. So let's open let's open this again. I was showing you that earlier. I don't know if you were not on the call at that point. So click on this particular icon, this icon here, or because you've already activated it here in this new file. This is a different file from design system file. You've activated it here. All those styles become accessible here from this layer. Become accessible here. Even for layout grid, you would also have them. Let me just click on one so you can see. If I click on this, for example, that should work. I think there's a problem with my. Let me do that again. What the heck? I think there's an issue with this. This happens sometimes, but generally it works. Um, okay, okay. So yeah, change the colors. You change it to any color. All the colors that are coming from the design system file, they are all accessible here. So if you notice, you'll find that gradient color here. You find them here. Now they are now accessible here as well. So, yes, don't just too white. Next question. Um, Usefulness of components. Okay, so components are useful. I talked about that also earlier. So components form the basis of your design. So when it comes to buttons, buttons should be created as components because they are going to be repeated across board in your design. And components, you can also introduce components when a particular item is going to repeat itself, a particular design. When I mean design, I'm not referring to the Figma, the entire page, but like I made mention in this particular page website. So if this is a community page, we're going to need it in events page. Then it is only right for us to create a component out of it. So component is the combination of individual like typography, icons, and image, but it's embedded in what you're trying to create. So that forms a component. Then when you use the Figma feature of component, it allows you to change ones and affect all the children or the instance of the component. Like I mentioned earlier, if you change, okay, any other question? How do we use, okay, how do we get those typography and buttons? Okay, this what are the tools that we are, what are the what are the tools that we are supposed to acquaint ourselves with at this point? Learn to use Figma, right? Don't bother yourself with other tools. Just learn to use Figma, then learn to use the features within it. Also, learn how to use the community panel as well as plugins. Yes.
So, someone, that's all the questions we have for now. So I don't with the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just quickly create something. Then, if you have more questions, you can ask it while we do that. Okay. So this page. Let's just go back to. I brought this page in to show you guys how you could possibly structure your Figma file, especially when you have access to more pages, and in a way that makes it easy for it to work with engineers and also other designers. Always have your a thumbnail. Don't leave your Figma file bare. Don't leave it bare like a without a thumbnail. A thumbnail, let me show what I mean by thumbnail. So I'm going to go back a bit. Just click this particular page. So this is a thumbnail. The image that appears on a particular file is a thumbnail. If you don't have an image on that file, it will look like this. It will be bare. Or Figma would pick any particular asset it finds and use it as the thumbnail. So that's a thumbnail. You also want to make sure that a thumbnail, you always have an image and thumbnail. It makes it easy for you to know what is in that page, and it also makes it easier for others to understand what exactly happened in that page. Now you could take it a bit further and make it easy for people that like when another designer, whoever is browsing through their feed, right? When they're browsing through their feed, they can see the progress or the point you are in the design. So Usually, design starts with research. So you started your research, which is the discovery phase. You're doing research, you're testing, you're interviewing, you're collecting data, you're trying to figure out the best solution to pick. You're going back into the drawing board, you're creating wireframes, you're doing all that in discovery phase. So when you're done with the discovery phase, you can move over to design phase, right? So when you move over to design phase, you can pick a color. Color can be this. So from this part, from out here, this will need to refresh. It should also show here. We'll just refresh the page. So sometimes this thing load to show, but to change the color here would also change. So you can easily tell other designers can also see, okay, this particular designer is currently in the design phase of the project, and when he's done with the design phase, so for example, the design is under review, it can be this. When it's work in progress, it can be this, and also when it is done, it can be this as well. Then you could also, when you're done with everything, and you have handed off to the engineers, it can change to this as well. So this could be any color, it could have any particular layout. This is just an example to show you how you could possibly structure your Figma file to work for you, especially when you're working with others or especially engineers as well. Then of course, whoever is managing the page, the description, subtitle, and the title of the page. Then let's see if it's going to load. It's still not loading yet. Okay. So yes, so you can include all this, you can separate it. You don't necessarily have to do your research on Figma. This is just an example. You could use other tools to handle research. You could use Notion, you could use Jira, Confluence. You could use, there's a lot of documentation tools you can use to put together your user research. It doesn't have to be Figma. This is just an example. Then for your design itself, this is where it becomes important. So you started with this. This is an example. Let's say this was the page you did the first iteration of the design. Then you showed it to stakeholders, and stakeholders gave you review. Instead of you to touch this file, you can just copy everything in this file into another into another page rather. Then in that page, you now make the corrections that your stakeholders have given you. Then when you're done, you show them again. If there are reviews, you take it to another page, then you make your reviews. What that does is it allows you to show the progress of changes that have happened, and allows you to account and demonstrate how the project has progressed from the beginning to where it is right now. Then in this example, we're trying to say, okay, maybe it only went through two iterations before it got to the final version. Then let's say this is where we have the final version here, right? Just right here. Then it will be here. Then when you're done with the final version, it has been approved, then you can hand off to engineers. So engineers, you can separate it into different pages: desktop, tablet, and mobile. You could have only desktop and mobile as well. Then in them, you put in the screens and whatever footnotes and a prototype that they need to access. Then of course, this is not necessary, but if there's any issue that you need to put in there, you can also put it into that page. Then always, this has been very useful to me personally. You could also introduce that into your method of handling design. So having an archive page is basically a page where maybe you created a card, you created something, you're not going to use it again, you've moved on from that particular thing. Instead of you to just delete it, you can move that particular design you are no longer using into the archive page, so that if at any point you need to reference or you need to grab something from it, it's easy for you to go back there and get it. So that's very, very useful. Then also, if for example there's a mistake, somebody deleted something in your file and you want to recover it, Figma has a feature that allows you to see previous version. If you click on show version history, it shows you the different timestamp and the design at that particular timestamp. So this file was created recently, so you won't see much action. I actually brought it into this particular account like an hour ago, so you won't see any action here. But if it's an Figma file that I've seen a lot of action, you'll see it here. You can click on it, you see the Figma file at that particular point in time and particular day. it continues for 30 days. So that can be very useful to return to a previous version. All right, so let's create something quickly. Let's create something quickly. We'll create something quickly here. Let's just go to this and I'll try to be fast because we've spent a lot of time, right? So you're going to use MacBook Air 14 inch. What I want to create is just create the landing, the hero section of Top Universe website, right? So um, first we need to, I've downloaded the assets as you've seen earlier. So we have all the assets in this page. I'm going to just drag those assets from this page to the sample project. Okay, just give it a bit to load. Okay, all right, good. Okay, copy this into this, then I'll just paste it somewhere here. Good to be using everything here for the design. So we have a dark color here. So we're just going to switch that to something dark. Remember I said you don't use absolute colors, so somewhere here would do just fine. Then if you notice we have a gradient there, you can create a custom gradient, or you're going to just, okay, you know what, we'll create a custom gradient very quickly. So this has a purple and green. So if you notice it is circular, you can just quickly do that by using the circle tool, right? And just drag it in, paste it here. Then we will use radial for this. Then we'll use a purple here. Is this color? Then we would also pick the green as well, which is this green. Right. Let's. I'm going to make this dark. Make this dark-ish. I could just keep it here. Then go to effects and pick blow. We need to take this to 300, for example. Then I would reduce this to like 10 for a start. Okay. It's not exactly it, but there is some semblance to it. So we're just going to leave it like this and continue with the design. Then next we have to create let's create the header. So we'll need the logo for that. So we're just going to take this and image and image. Then let me put this here. So this logo. I use the scale. Click on key, then drag this. Make it small, somewhere around 50, 150 would be perfect. But before we proceed, we need to get a layout. So we want to know the limits, the extent to which it is. Imagine that the design will not exceed, and make sure it is consistent across board. Then we would need to get the text, the other navigation item. I'm just going to drop this image here, and okay. So the typeface used here was was grotesque, tomato grotesque. I should have the font here, so we're just going to try to grab it. Let's see. So we have learn, we have events, we have blog. While I do that, I'm going to put this in an auto layout. Then I'll put it in blog community and FAQ, FAQ, right? So and I think what it was a bit of medium, then I'm going to use 24 for this. Select all of them. Right. Let's have that. And next is button. So for button, we're just going to the asset panel. Okay, we don't have buttons here because this account is a free account. So we can just go to design system and copy button. And then we can have a copy button here. Right. This button does not have any icons, so I'm going to just turn that off. Turn it off. So we have a donate button, donate button, and we have an internship button, right? So internship, internship. So the donate button is a secondary color. You can just use just select the color, then make sure the other part is white. Just use an off. Okay. Okay. So we're going to select both buttons. Right. Then I'm going to put them here. They are this very extreme end of the design. Right. To get to have them there. Then okay. Okay. Then we're going to just include this group it together. I'm going to stretch this a little bit up so you can see what is happening in the panel. Then I'm also going to join this into the group. Make sure everything is centered, right? Then I'm going to make this. I'm going to lock this so that it doesn't disturb when I select. And then I'm going to drag this all the way to the extreme. I'm going to drag this all the way to the extreme. Then I'm going to center it. Going to center it here. Right, center it. Then this should be. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, I think somewhere around 24 would work. 24. And let's push it up neatly. Then I'm going to turn off this. I'll replace, instead of using this red lines, since I already know where the lines are, or I would instead use a ruler. I'm going to turn on the ruler, Shift R, then I'll use it to mark this place. Then mark this place. Now I can turn this off. Okay, I can turn this off. Then this is slightly too big. This is should actually verify so this should be 48. Let's check the fonts used here. Well, actually didn't want to use checkboard just to keep things the same. So actually this is using 16, so I'm going to reduce it a bit further. The typeface used here is railway and protect, so it's railway. And 16 and space between this will be keep it at 72. Okay, so what I can do to make sure that things stay where they are supposed to stay is to change this to fill. Then use a pad. I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions from this, but if you do, just ask and I'll walk you through how it was created. Then move this to space in between, then this works. So you've noticed this is supposed to, so when I drag this now, let me run it back. If I drag this, it's literally it's reducing, it is moving based on the way it was created. So for example, this is somewhere around where tablet would be. So it's very easy for me to, if I want to create a tablet view, I can just easily bring things closer and we have the tablet view very easy. I used auto layout to create this. Then yes, so we have the header. We have the header. So if since this is the header, right, and it's going to be the header for so so if I go to event and just refresh the page. If I go to event, I go to learn, no matter the page I go to is the same header. So I'm going to turn it into a component so that in case I want to make changes at one point, I can make it once and I won't have to make it again. So I'm going to name it header. Header. It should port logo. Okay. And let's call this nav links. Navigation, that's why it is NAV, then links. Then yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Then do we have drop downs? We don't have drop downs, and yeah, that's basically it. Let's just keep it this way. Of course, it's not exactly the way it is on the website, but this also works as well. We need to increase this to 18 for legibility, and we're going to start with the text, the heading. So we have this big bold text here. We have to have that here as well. Just click on text here. Then I think the font size here should be somewhere around 90. Okay, 52. Okay, so 52. This is 52 here. All right, 10 bytes. And this just put it here. Then tomato text. Right. Then now this might not work here because of the screen resolution I'm designing at. So I'm going to increase this slightly to 64. I can fill up more space. Now, if you notice, it was a bit bold, so I'm going to make account for that as well. Then it's a gradient. So to select the gradient, I'm just going to take a screenshot. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, then I'll use color picker to try to be fast. If you have any questions, ask. I will answer it once I'm done. Then you can select gradient, switch it to this way. All right. Let's keep it here. Simple. Drag this. Going to delete this, not necessary. Opacity should be 100%. Then select green. All right. So here we go. I'm done using this. I'm going to delete it. So we have one. So we have the open source learning. Okay. Open open source learning. Okay. Let's get centered. Then just give it a color green. Centered. Going to increase this to 24 each. 20. Let's keep it at 20. At 20. I would have used the design system, but the font and the design system is not the same on the website. And I actually want to stick to the design on the website. So I'm just going to stretch this to cover just two lines. Keep this here, drag it here. Then next is to copy this right in. Let's bring it here. I'm going to return this back to white, of course. You can have green for this point. I'll just drag it in from. I want it to be centered, so I'm going to switch to centered. Centered. Then this is 20. I'm going to bring it down to 16. Um, three lines work. Three lines work, so that because this is a paragraph, we don't want people to be reading from one end. So if we keep it like this, for example, 2 lines, it means the user will have to read from one point all the way to this place. It's too far, so I'm going to just reduce it to 3 so that it will be the distance between the reading from left to right will not be too far. So I'm going to increase this to 18 actually. It's too small. Then I'll put this at I'll put this at please ask your questions, put this here. You confirm. I think this should be railway. It looks like railway. Yeah, it's railway. Then next is the buttons. So if you notice there is a this is a link. So we can just it's already because of the way I copied it, it's already selected. So I can just put this put the colors and select color and boom, we have that. I'm going to remove that on the line here and here we go. So next is the button. We already have buttons, so I don't need to start dragging buttons from the next time, which is this one. In here. You drag it in here, and what do we have? So join the next cohort, all caps. Let me just switch this. Join the next cohort. Right. Let me change no. Our expert instructors. Our expert instructors. Alright, so this will have. Okay, so this would this is it. Then we can then have this trusted partner, and we're done. Then let's just drag this in and trusted white. Then I kept the logos here, so we can just carry these logos and put them then back into this particular page. And, okay, all right. So we'll just keep this at 18. This is 18. This should be 18 for consistency. And yeah, time has gone, so just that's what we're just going to leave it here. So we need to join this together with this. Keep the spacing as 16. Then together with this should be 8. And okay, with this 8. And this keep it at 16 8 further. Okay, then we can drag this down a little bit. Okay, then this should be here. The because of the screen resolution difference, I'm going to also make this a bit bigger, just for make it look exactly more like it. Then as for there was this particular point that was okay. So to a large extent, this works. This works. We're just going to leave it here because of time and yes. Then you can create a mobile view. So mobile view, you can select a frame here, then make sure that you're using the same color. Then for this, you can just copy and paste this in here, then drag it in close and get some information out of it. So for example, you can remove this completely. Okay, so we're going to just stop here because of time. Time has gone, and yeah. Do you have any more questions? Then we'll wrap it up.
You do.
Do you have an extension on your browser? Okay, what are the extensions you have on your browser? I have for fonts. So if you're a font speaker, then there's also a there's also for downloading images. Then this is for recording screen. Then Loom. They're all accessible on Chrome extension, which is recommended. We use Figma app or use the browser. Use the browser. It's lightweight, but if you have, you can also anyone you prefer. You can try both of them and decide on which one works for you. Okay, I'm still confused about how you. Oh, the gradient. Gradient is you would learn more about that. Just check tutorials online. It's very simple. Just select the you switch. You can switch between different types of gradients here. Then you pick the colors you want to pick using the color picker. Then or you can drag between this point to select the colors, and that is it. Very simple. What extension does he use to find the font size? Oh yes, there are lots of font finders you can find on the Chrome extension. There are lots of them. You just search for fonts. The one I use is what font. So search for what font. The icon is an F with a question mark. That's it. Any other question?
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have.
Okay. All right. So the prototype view would look like this. So I'm just going to select, move to prototype. We've talked about all this. So play, then it loads, and yes, there's a little bit of glitch here, but yes, okay. Let me just turn this off. Maybe to presentation, then that should be all. Yeah, then I can just expand it to cover the entire screen, and that is it. We've come to the end of the session, and it's a pleasure being here with you. If you have any further questions, you can ask on Discord server as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Samuel. We learned a lot today, like a lot. So that's cool. Thank you so much for being here. So, guys, you can go ahead to give a shout out to Samuel for being here. And also, his Twitter handle is being displayed on your screen. So, do well to follow him on Twitter. If you have more messages or more questions, rather, you can go ahead to drop them on the Discord server. Samuel will be there to answer it, as well as other moderators will also be there to answer your questions. If you're yet to follow us on YouTube and Twitch, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as follow us on Twitch. So thank you once again, Samuel. We really learned a lot and we hope the students learned a lot too.
Yeah, someone said I was too fast. We've spent a lot of time, so I had to round up quickly. There's a lot, I can't teach everything. This is supposed to be just a general overview, and I've actually spent a lot more time than I should, even going through Figma. So it shows you how much of learning you should do on your own. So this is supposed to be an overview, and just explore, use Google to check, rewatch the video, and practice. Make sure you practice daily, and you'll get the hang of it.
Yes, you will. I think that's for Shinon soon. So just rewatch the video over and over again till you get what you're looking for. And as Samuel said, use Google. Google is your best friend. So
Yes,
have
name
a
of the font is what font? What font? That's the name. What font?
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I think is there anything else you have to say, Samuel, before we call it a day?
Oh, there's nothing else. I'm on Discord servers. On Discord servers. So if you have questions or clarifications, or maybe I could share some links, you can do that on Discord server. Just ask a question and tag me, and I'll be there to answer your questions.
All right. So you can tag Samuel on the Discord server. He's on the Discord server, and you can also reach out to him there on the server. So that will be all for now, guys. See you by 8 p.m. You can go over this video over and over again till you get what you want. So that's all. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day ahead. Bye, Samuel.